Hey guys, this is Andrew Wright with another episode of Review the Right Thing. How's everything going? We are now through February. It is March 1st, and I'm going to be talking about several releases that I've dove into the most over the last 2 months. The albums that I've shown the most interest in so far, besides the other two that I have reviewed. I work full-time and I have other commitments, and I have all these things that I want to talk about besides Blu-ray releases. There's just not enough time at the moment for me to review one album at a time and still cover other things I want to cover. Anyway, the first highlight in this last 2 months is the new Odious Mortem. They put out their first album in 12 years, Synesthesia. Gosh, that's a hard one to pronounce. And it's a really solid return. They released one of my favorite albums, Cryptic Implosion, in the 2000s. And they have a solid blend of technical death metal that doesn't rely on things being overly flashy. They definitely have their guitar noodles, but they just write some catchy-ass riffs. I do think they've toned it down a little and tried to incorporate some more melody. Possibly a strategy to sound more modern and gain a wider audience. However, I'm not mad at them. They don't sacrifice anything in their sound, and I think regardless sound as good as ever. This album is absolutely well worth diving into if you like technical death metal. Released on the same day in January, Pinegrove released their fourth full-length Marigold, another one that sounds softer than past works. Their blend of folk and emo is super catchy, stripped-down acoustic ballads with full band arrangements. Evan and Co. sound just as good as ever. On previous releases, there seemed to be more upbeat, almost more rock tunes, but that does not keep this album from being a well worth listen. There are still some rockin' songs, but most are more tender, not much different than past releases. Evan's songwriting is just as strong this time through and showcases a great batch of songs. Another great highlight from this month of January is the new Jerome Fortune with album Freek. Fortune has his own style of rap that incorporates elements of trap, electronic, jazz, and his own diverse musical knowledge and flamboyance to weave this awesome blend that's fresh and intriguing. I first discovered Fortune through one of his singles, Blicka Blicka, and I've been hooked ever since. I'm not always for rap that takes big chances, but those chances he continues to take keep him in a style all of his own. I can't think of anyone doing rap the way he does. Sure, he sounds a little bit like this or a little bit like that, but keeps music sounding different than others around him. There's some other things in the month that I still have yet to check out because of my busy schedule, but I'll give them honorable mentions at the end. Next in February, we're brought the new album from Tame Impala, Slow Rush. Singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist Kevin Parker releases his fourth studio album. I'm not super up on the old material. I've always liked what I've heard, but have never taken the time to give albums multiple listens. And not because I don't like them, just because time and the abundance of music. This album does seem to showcase some softer, poppier tunes than previous albums. Honestly, I really like it though. I find the songs very catchy. Maybe it's because I haven't listened in depth to the past releases, but I feel if I did, these songs might not be as memorable as earlier albums. But nevertheless, I've given it some listens and I'm really liking it. On the same day of the new Tame Impala, we were also given the new album by Agnes Obel. She's a Danish singer and pianist. Her new album, titled Myopia, is very somber yet beautiful. Her vocals have some pitch changes which I found very interesting and complemented the music wonderfully. It doesn't seem too far off from her past releases and in fact further showcases her ability to write great classical piano-infused folk tunes. If you're a fan of hers, I highly suggest checking it out, and if you've never listened to her before, but you're kind of interested in more of a light singer-songwriter, I would definitely say check this out as well. The end of the month, we were hit with a bang. I've only listened to these releases once, but so far so good. We will see how these hold up with further listens. We have a pair of releases from New York rapper Princess Nokia, each album showcasing various stylings that she has showcased on past releases. Everything Sucks hits like the old-school inspired hip-hop of her debut 1992. However, in place of the old-school production of the aforementioned, this release hits with a bigger production of modern trap. It's a super catchy release, and she writes some great raps and shows some awesome flow. Everything is Beautiful shows the softer, poetic, R&B-infused sound of her second release, Metallic Butterfly. However, unlike Butterfly, she trades the glitchy electro R&B production for more of a jazz-based boom-bap style of production. Songwriting on this release is similar to the Butterfly, in which she sings more and the raps seem almost more like spoken word poetry. Both are great releases and I think are her best material as an artist. On this great day, we also get the new Beneath the Massacre, Fearmonger. This is the best they have sounded in years as well. This album is super flashy, ferocious, and exhausting. Not exhausting in the sense that this album gets old, quite the opposite actually. It hits like a brick and never lets up. There are tons of noodles, but it's got some catchy moments and shifts that keep it interesting enough to not overdo and just say, oh, look what I can do on the guitar. I felt like I had run a marathon by the time this album was over, and I had ran with the drummer. Also, we have the new Dark Fortress, Spectres from the Old World. They have been toying with more melodic songwriting since 2009 with Elim. This release still retains the trademark black metal elements of prior releases. It's fast and full of blast beats, but will shift to more slowed down elements with some pretty arrangements and some clean vocals and growls. The different levels in which he uses the clean vocals I really liked. The album still sounds evil, but mixed with some great melody. I think this is their best out of the new releases since their shift in sound. Some of my honorable mentions for the last 2 months that I'll need to come back around to are the new Halsey, Manic, which came out January 17th. She is pop singer Ashley Frangipane, and releases her third album. I really enjoyed the last 2 releases. They're great pop records, so I really need to listen to this album. Also released is the new Black Lips, Sing in a World That's Falling Apart. They're a lo-fi garage punk band, although later loses the lo-fi for a larger production. Nothing that ever hurt them, but it did change their sound a little bit. Still enjoy the last albums, so I don't think this will be any different. Les Amazons de Freek releases their new album Amazon's Power on January 24th. Their blend of contemporary R&B and world music from the first album, Republique Amazon, was really great, and I really liked that sound. Very different, but very, very good. I don't see them backpedaling with this release. Next, we have the new Midnight with Rebirth by Blasphemy. It came out on January 24th. One-man black and punk project from vocalist, guitarist, bassist, and drummer Athenar. The type of band that you know what you're getting into, and so I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. K. Michelle puts out her next album, All Monsters Are Human, on January 31st. I've admired her since I first heard her back in 2013. She has a great voice, and the production on her past albums has been pretty top-notch. We also have the new Tennis, Swimmer, from February 14th. They are a husband and wife duo, and I've always enjoyed their past releases, which is a blend of surfy power pop. Elena Moore has some pretty vocals, and husband Patrick handles all the music in the production, and it's always sounded pretty good. Grimes with Miss Anthropocene came out on February 21st. More eccentric experimental pop from the Canadian artist. Another I need to give some more attention was Intronaut's Fluid Existential Inversions, which came out just Friday. They're a progressive post-metal band. I really like going back to past releases with them when they were almost more of a Neurosis-inspired post-metal band. There's no denying that they've grown into something more and are incredibly talented. It feels like these guys have shifted into something more than just metal, much like Mastodon. Another one that dropped on February 28th was the new Today's the Day, No Good to Anyone. This is more experimental noise metal from Steve Austin. I'm sure it's going to be very pissed off and abrasive, and I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. Last, Tombs put out an EP titled Monarchy of Shadows on February 28th. They're a black and death metal outfit. This little EP I did listen to, but was also doing something else and wasn't focusing enough attention to it, so I will have to go back to it as well. That is why it is in my nod list. Now that we're through February, there's already been some great music. There's also been some clunkers, but I'm not going to review any of those because I don't have enough time to review things that I just didn't like. So why take the time to do so? I mean, there's also been more than I've been able to get through. Anyways, do you like any of these releases? Have you any opinions? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for listening to another Review the Right Thing.